I would like everybody that the session is being recorded. So if you want a copy of it, please email at info@aoy.co.za or tabo@aoy.co.za. So if you email us at info@aoy.co.za or tabo@aoy.co.za, you'll get a copy of the notes that are going to be used today, and also you're going to be getting a recording of the whole session today. The session is starting in 2 minutes time. Before we begin and I introduce our speaker, a reminder to please ensure during the call that you turn your camera off and mute yourself. Also, please can you engage with us by going to www.menti.com. Code is 8809191. So that's www.menti.com. The code is 8809191. The format of our Wisdom Wednesday will be a 30 to 40 minutes presentation, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Please post your questions on the chat function, and we'll open the floor using your questions to generate a conversation on the topic. The topic for today is Be Smart and Get More Done in Less Time. So it gives me great pleasure this morning to introduce our speaker, which is Val Lemming. Val Lemming is a businesswoman and an entrepreneur, a teacher by profession. She's passionate about helping people become the very best that they can be. Val specializes in corporate training for companies. She's also a non-executive director at Academy of York. She's done a number of our webinar sessions in the past. People who've been with us since we started with the sessions are very familiar with her. I'd like to hand over to Val. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to you on this Wednesday morning. Tabor, thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's great to be with the Academy of York community today and to discuss this topic. And so our topic this morning on today's Wisdom Wednesday is really how to avoid procrastination and get more done in less time. The session is being recorded. And just a reminder to please pop yourselves onto mute. Throughout today's session, we're going to be asking you a number of questions and really encouraging your engagement. So we encourage you to please start off with an icebreaker question. Tell us how you're feeling today. Are you feeling good? Are you feeling great? Are you feeling grim? Hopefully, if you're feeling grim, by the end of the session, you'll be feeling a little bit less grim. And if you're feeling good, hopefully by the end of the session, you're feeling great. In terms of today, as Tabo mentioned, we're going to talk about how to be smart and get more done in less time, how to avoid this issue of procrastination. And we're going to relate a lot of what we're talking about today to financial issues, because at the end of the day, most of our students study in order to improve their lives. And one of the very visual ways or visible ways that somebody improves their lives is when they improve their income and they start to earn more and they start to be able to afford better things. So we're going to be really relating a lot of what we talk about today to financial issues and financial procrastination. So I'm really hoping you're going to be enjoying today's session. As Thabo mentioned, about 40 minutes of speaking and then opening the floor to questions. So if you've got a question, please raise it in the chat group, and then when we open the floor, we'll definitely leave enough time for that. The session is being recorded, so your permission, hopefully you're all in the same boat, you're all happy with that, so that you can share the recording with family members or friends. So really today we're going to look at why is it that we procrastinate, and how is it that procrastination stops us from living our best lives, and certainly how can we be smarter in terms of our money management and be smarter in terms of our time management so that you accomplish more, so that you're able to be more and achieve more and get more in terms of your life. So we're also going to be taking a look at some of the top things that you should focus on doing from a financial perspective. And I think that this year has been such a tough year that it's so vitally important to really be able to use the last 8 weeks of this year to be able to get more done. So we've only got 8 weeks remaining of this year, and I think it's a great opportunity just to really get on that right page financially. And so in terms of today's talk, I really want to start off with one of my personal aha moments. So I'm a mom, I'm also a businesswoman, I work on a number of companies, a number of projects, I'm also a member of a couple of boards. So I'm a busy lady and I've got 3 kids of my own and I juggle all of these different roles. And one of the things that I certainly realized that I cannot manage time. The only thing I can manage is myself. And I called this my aha moment because for so long I struggled with time management and getting things done. And without a doubt, there are no more hours than 24 hours in the day. There's no more hours, not for any person in the world. Even the most highly successful people, they also only have 24 hours in a day. So the only thing we need to learn is we need to learn how to manage ourselves versus trying desperately to manage time. And I guess in this busy world, in this world of the new normal, in this world that we're living in post-COVID or during COVID, you know, there is so much to do and so little time to do it. If you're working virtually, I'm sure you would agree with me that your working hours haven't reduced, they've extended, because from early on in the morning to late at night, we're trying to catch up with work as we juggle the different roles of maybe being a mom, of maybe being a brother, a sister, a family member, a trusted friend, or a colleague. So acknowledge that there is a lot to do. Of course there is. And there isn't enough time in order to achieve what we want to achieve. But are we allowing distraction to get us off course? And we're going to watch one of Mel Robbins' videos today, which really talks about this concept of distraction. So roles are hectic, our lives are hectic, and we're constantly juggling these different balls. And when I thought about how many roles I've juggled just this morning, these are a couple of things that pop to mind. The role of a mom, the role of a sister, the role of a daughter, the role of a colleague, the role of an aunt, the role of a working woman. But what about that role of being a savvy money manager? And remember that you're working in order to earn that income. That's the main driver. That's the reason why you work. You work 160 hours a month in order to earn that magic number that's going to hit your account, as Thabo mentioned, perhaps even today or tomorrow if you're going to get paid on the 30th or the 31st. So we work very hard in order to earn that income, but are we actively managing our personal finances, or are we abdicating control with the excuse of we're simply too busy? So without a doubt, we need to ask ourselves this question: how much time am I actively spending managing my money? How much time? So once again, using that Menti polling system, it is anonymous. So in order to engage, either go to your phones, go to menti.com, www.menti.com, and the code for today's session is 8809191. We're asking you the question, and once again, I'm going to ask Thabo to pop it into the chat function just so that you can have quick access to it. www.menti.com. We're asking you, how often do you spend actively managing your money? Is it once a week? Is it every day? Is it once a month? Is it annually? Or is it never? And we would love your thoughts on this question. Such a very, very, very important question to ask yourself. How often do you spend managing your money? And please don't use the chat function to answer. Simply go to menti.com, and I'm popping that link, and the code is 8809191. And at the moment, you'll see the responses from some of the people in the group. Some people are saying once a week. Nobody is saying daily. Once a month is definitely the most positive, or the most popular, I should say. And a couple of you are being very honest and saying, no, I never spend time and energy managing my finances. We're going to talk to you about why this is so incredibly important. So remember, engagement is vitally important. Please go to menti.com and vote. Tell us what you're thinking. So how often should you spend managing your money? Well, the goal would be to get to 10 minutes a day. That really is what we call transformative financial wellness, where you spend 10 minutes a day managing your money, 10 to 8 or 10 after 5. The golden rule of 10 minutes a day. Why 10 to 8 or 10 after 5? Well, we want you to think about, normally we work from 8 to 5, working to earn a living. What we want you to do is spend 10 minutes a day managing your personal finances. We're going to give you some ideas that you can use in order to actually manage your money. So you want to start with why. And in terms of thought leadership, there's an incredible book to read called Start With Why. It's written by a guy called Simon Sinek, and he writes an incredible book, or you can watch the YouTube video that looks at why is it some people are more successful than others. Why? And he says he decodes the reason why. And the reason is as follows. Most people start their days, their weeks, their months thinking about, what do I need to do? And then they move on to, how am I going to do it? And maybe they get to, why is this important? Whereas successful people and companies start with why. They start with, why is this important? And then they move on to, well, how am I going to do it? And what do I need to do? So in terms of personal finance and avoiding financial procrastination, being smart, you need to realize that the first reason why is, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? COVID has had a massive impact on people financially. We see statistics like 3 million people have had to apply for TERS relief. And many people have lost their jobs or reduced their incomes. So the reason why is clear. And the reason why is really, do you want to thrive, or are you happy surviving? And I guess that's why the reason so many people study is because they want to thrive, because we know the one way in which we can earn more is to learn more. So in order to thrive financially, in order to thrive in our lives, we need to invest time and energy in terms of learning new skills. Maybe that's why Wisdom Wednesdays are so popular. So it matters because it's a real important question. Do you want to thrive, or do you want to survive? Mancha is saying that the website provided is not reachable. Mansa, I am just going to quickly, maybe the incorrect link was sent. It is menti.com, menti.com, and the code is going to be entered in just a minute. So why it matters, why is it important to avoid procrastination, to start managing your money? Because the question is, do you want to thrive or do you want to survive? So the real benefits of being smart or being money wise or taking back control of your personal financial life could be as follows. The very first reason why, when we avoid procrastination, whether it comes to our studying or whether it comes to money management, or whether it comes to avoiding procrastination at work, when we avoid procrastination, we're able to increase efficiency. And efficiency is really that wonderful concept of getting more done in a shorter space of time, working smarter, not necessarily harder. So when it comes to becoming more efficient, when you start to manage your money more, you start to actually increase your ability to achieve your goals and dreams. So for example, you're feeling overwhelmed, like you have simply too much debt, or you're struggling with juggling. Who am I going to pay this month? I've got so many debit orders. Who am I going to pay this month? When we become more efficient in terms of managing our personal finances, we're able to improve our outcomes and improve our goals, start to reach those goals because we're investing more time in terms of actually wanting to achieve those goals. Secondly, when you spend time managing your finances, you gain something money can't buy, and that is peace of mind. Peace of mind is so incredibly important. When we procrastinate, when we delay doing things that are important, it creates stress in our lives. So whether it has been an assignment you've been avoiding doing, or whether it has been managing your personal finances, it creates stress. Now, one of the top causes of stress in our lives is financial stress. We can say that without a doubt. The studies have shown that. So sadly, mental health issues, stress and anxiety are on the rise. In fact, it is said that this is going to be the next pandemic, that of mental health issues, stress and anxiety, with the statistics saying that by 2030, we are going to be experiencing 1 in 3 people will be experiencing chronic mental health, stress and anxiety issues. So when you start to manage your finances more effectively, when you start to avoid procrastination, you start to feel better and more in control. You're not avoiding the problem any longer, you're actually addressing it, and that is critically important. The other wonderful benefit is that you feel happier. When you get things done, when you check things off a to-do list, whether those are financial to-dos or whether they're related to your studying, but whatever it is, when you start to check things off a list, it releases feel-good endorphins, happy hormones, and we feel better. We feel good about ourselves. We feel happier. And that increased happiness level is almost like what we call the snowball effect. We start to do more, we start to feel happier, and guess what? That ball of energy starts to grow, and that is absolutely incredible. One of the other wonderful benefits of managing your money more effectively is you start to have what we call increased financial confidence. Now, confidence is this magic ingredient between feeling unstoppable and being literally scared out of your wits. Many people share the story that when they're studying and learning new skills, their confidence level increases. So one of the great benefits of studying is increased confidence. So you feel more confident in yourself and your abilities. All of a sudden, your boss or colleagues start to notice this increased confidence, and they notice it, and inevitably that leads to positive change in your life. Similarly, when it comes to managing your personal finances, when you start to learn money management techniques or move from avoiding financial issues to actually getting involved, it increases your financial confidence level. So I would love you to go to menti.com and to tell us right now, how would you rate your current financial confidence level? Would you rate yourself 10 out of 10, super confident, out of 10, average money confidence, or poor, 5 or below? And I think that this is so important. I was on a call with one of the major banks the other day, and they said to me, you know, one of the great parts of this training session was that I realized that I'm not alone. A lot of people are struggling for to reach financial confidence. So Mancha, thank you very, very much. I thought Thabo had posted it. It is 8809191. So that is the code, and in order to access that code, you need to go to menti.com, www.menti.com, and the code is 8809191, 8809191. So at the moment, we've got 10 people engaging on Menti. I think we've got about 25 people on the call at the moment. Actually, we've got 40 people on the call at the moment. So let's really get that number and engagement up. Please go to menti.com and tell us how you're feeling. We need to know from you. We want to keep you engaged throughout today's session. We want to get you engaged. Tell us how you're feeling. How would you rate your money confidence or your financial confidence level? Would you say you're super confident, average, or poor in terms of your financial confidence level? Thank you so very, very much for those of you who are engaging. So at the moment, nobody is saying they're super confident. So it's something that we need to work on. Now, whether it is working on your confidence as a public speaker, or whether it's financial confidence, the one way in which you build confidence is through practice. Practice makes perfect. So in order to build your financial confidence level, we need to practice. And how do you practice financial confidence? By getting things done. One of the other major benefits of avoiding financial procrastination is that you achieve your goals. There's a massive difference between doing something and saying it's done. Similarly, our students will tell you there's a massive difference between studying and saying you've qualified. There's a massive difference. There's a difference between saying I'm currently studying for my HR diploma versus I've graduated with my national diploma in human resources. I went to my graduation. There's a massive difference. So I want you to think about, what are your goals in life? What were your goals for 2020? What will be your goals for 2021? And do a sort of a check-in with yourself in terms of how are you doing in terms of achieving those goals, whether it be a financial goal or whether it be a personal goal, a study goal, a relationship goal, a physical goal, whatever the goal is. Do a little check-in with yourself and see where are you at in terms of this. And I guess that brings me to the point of awareness. You know, before we can start to change our behavior, we need to become aware of our behavior. So Sheryl Sandberg says, we cannot change what we are not aware of. But once we are aware, we cannot help but change. Once we are aware, we cannot help but change. So it really starts with awareness. So if you want to achieve more in your life, if you want to achieve your goals, one of the biggest hurdles is this issue of procrastination. And procrastination is very often the thing that holds us back between living a fulfilled life and living the life that we're currently living. So in terms of procrastination, let's just define what it actually means. So procrastination is saying, I'm going to do tomorrow something which could be done or needs to be done today. So do you ever intentionally avoid? Do you have a habit of procrastinating a certain amount of tasks at work, with your studying, in your financial life? Do you procrastinate? Do you avoid doing something? You know it's going to have negative consequences, but sadly you avoid it. So I'd love to once again ask you that question on menti.com. I hope you all have the code and you can access it. Once again, it is menti.com. Vitally important. Tell us, do you procrastinate? Yes, no, or sometimes. Can you relate to this concept of procrastination? So do you feel like you procrastinate? And Mancha makes a very important point. He says, you know, self-discipline is very, very important, But even the most self-disciplined people can sometimes procrastinate. So they put it off. They might put it off by a day, 2 days, 3 days, but sometimes procrastination can become a habitual problem. So at the moment, many of us can relate. Nobody is saying that they never procrastinate. We would love to know from you, do you procrastinate? At the moment, sometimes seems to be the most common answer. Yeah, I sometimes procrastinate. And so really tomorrow becomes this mystical land where 99% of productivity and motivation is stored. So what we want to do is we want to tap into that and be able to start to achieve those things today. Let's watch the short video on the subject of procrastination. It's by Mel Robbins. She's one of my favorite authors. She's absolutely dynamic. Thabo, if you will just let me know if you can hear the sound.
You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it.
I can hear it loud and clear.
So let's talk a little bit about procrastination. Who in here struggles with procrastination? Yeah, and the rest of you that aren't raising your hand are just procrastinating on doing it, aren't you? I know. You see, I always thought procrastination had to do with the thing I was procrastinating around, right? Like that procrastination has something to do with work. Believe it or not, procrastination has nothing to do with your work. Procrastination is a form of stress relief. Let me explain this. So let's say that you've got some stuff going on in your life, and heck, who doesn't have stuff going on in your life? Maybe you're fighting with your significant other. Maybe mom's or dad's health is failing and it's really, really upsetting you. Maybe you've got some financial stuff. You put too much of your savings into Bitcoin, and now that that's crashed, you're stressed out about it, right? And so you go into work, and when you get into work, you got stuff to do. You kind of walk in and you got this big stress ball that subconsciously is hanging over your head. And so you walk in and you sit down, and you know you got 13 phone calls you need to make. And you also know that you've been chickening out, you've been making easy calls, and there's a bunch of CIOs or other people that are higher level that you haven't been calling. And so as you sit down to do it, and you got the stress on your shoulders, your brain it starts to go, wait a minute, well, you want me to make a call to somebody that I'm scared to make? Absolutely not. I'm so stressed out about, can we just watch some cat videos for a minute? And next thing you know, an hour's gone by. And then, of course, what do? You beat yourself up. So the only way that you can break this habit, and that's an important word for you to hear, you're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it. You see, all habits have three parts. There's a trigger, and in the case of procrastination, the trigger's always stress. Then there's a pattern you repeat, and in the case of procrastination, it is to avoid doing something. And then there's a reward. You get a little stress relief. The only way to break a habit, you guys, is not to deal with the triggers. You're never going to get rid of the stress in your life, but you can 100% change your pattern of avoiding work. So next time that you're in a situation where you feel yourself hesitate, you spent way too much time checking out the highlights from last night's scores, what you're going to do is you're going to go, oh, I must be stressed out about something. Acknowledge the stress. Then go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want you to count to yourself because I want you to interrupt the habit that's stored here, and I want you to awaken your prefrontal cortex. Then I want you to just work, just for 5 minutes. The reason why I want you to only work for 5 minutes is because your problem isn't working. It's the habit of avoiding. I just need you to start. And here's the other cool thing.
Hello, Val.
About that, everybody. I was kicked out for just a minute. Back now. I hope you all really enjoyed that short video. Thabo, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry about that.
No problem. Just a reminder, remember to mute yourself. Cameras.
Apologies once again. I seem to be running into technical difficulties today. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear again. So I guess the wonderful part of really that message, and I'm hearing you that some of you missed the last part, basically what was so powerful was that Thabo, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. So what Mel Robbins was saying is that we cannot deal with, we all know that stress is in our lives. We're never going to get rid of that stress trigger. But what we do need to be aware of or conscious of is to acknowledge it. So the reason why we procrastinate, whether that be with our finances, whether that be with our studies, whether that be with our work, we need to acknowledge the stress. So acknowledge it, stop yourself and say, well, why am I procrastinating? It's because of stress. I'm feeling
Apologies, everyone. Seems like we can you please bear with us? We're having technical glitches. Val will be back shortly.
I'm back.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that. So I think we need to acknowledge the stress, count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then simply get started. So the magical way in which you avoid procrastination is to acknowledge it and then to do something. So action, vitally, vitally important. Action today can prevent a crisis tomorrow. So when it comes to procrastination, we've got to ask ourselves, what are we using to de-stress? What are these weapons of mass distraction? And for me personally, whenever I'm stressed, what do? Is I go to Facebook, or maybe what you can relate to is Twitter, or going to YouTube, or getting distracted by WhatsApp or your cell phone. So ask yourself, what are the weapons of mass distraction? And then simply acknowledge what they are and become aware of how much time you are wasting through these distractions. So one of the great things that I've now implemented is I've simply put an app on my phone which tracks how often, how many hours do I spend
Apologies, guys, once again. It seems like Val is having a slight technical glitch again. We are currently working on the issue right now. Let's see.
Thabo, I'm back. I'm very sorry for all of these technical glitches, but I'm back. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, Val.
Great. So I think you need to really be honest about what potentially is distracting you. Work out how much time this is wasting, and then really take a look at how you can address these time wasters and what can you do better with your time. So as I was saying, I placed an app on my phone and I couldn't believe how many hours I was spending wasting on unnecessary things. And then really, once again, the awareness is what then enabled me to change my decisions. So some time wasters that you might be familiar with is waiting for inspiration, or maybe fear. Fear holds us back, or trying to please everybody, especially in terms of personal finances. I definitely see that there's a trend. You know, there's only X amount of money, but yet we're trying to please everybody. And so without a doubt, trying to please everybody is a distraction and something that really causes us to procrastinate. So ask yourself, how much time do you lose? Maybe in terms of time spent on your cell phone, time spent surfing the net, or worrying, or stopping and starting, or social media. And I guess the solution is simply carving out a quiet place for you to actually examine where you're at in your life. And I think that the last 8 weeks of the year is a wonderful opportunity for us to really examine our lives and to ask ourselves, what's working, what's not? What's working smoothly? What areas of my life am I being smart? And in what areas of my life do I really need to focus on? What were my goals for this year, and what am I achieving and on track to achieve, and what am I potentially not achieving in? So find that quiet place and really say to yourself, where am I at right now? And just taking that step of analyzing where you're at right now and where do you want to go is definitely the very first step. So we talk about, in terms of procrastination and time management, this concept that was developed by a guy called Brian Tracy, and it's called eating the frog. What does it mean? Now, I know it sounds absolutely hideous to eat a frog, but basically what he says is, if you do the worst thing, eating a frog, first thing in your day, you're able then to get that task done and move on to the less difficult tasks. So I want each and every one of you to think about, what is the frog that you should be doing that you're not doing? And very often, if you're thinking about it, then you should be doing it. So important to ask yourself, what have I been avoiding? What have I should have done that I haven't done? And really asking yourself that question, what have you been avoiding? Is there something in your life that you've been avoiding doing? So we've once again got a mentee polling question. We're asking you, is there something you've been avoiding or procrastinating? Yes, no, or are you unsure? Now, for those of you who are answering this question with a resounding yes, I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper, and I want you to write down on that to-do list that item that you've been avoiding. Trust me, by spending some time working on this frog or this item that you've been avoiding doing, you will feel this incredible sense of relief and achievement the minute you start working on it. So from a studying perspective, it might be you're dreading doing an assignment, or you're feeling nervous about an assignment. If you've been avoiding it, writing it down and getting started will definitely assist you. So at the moment, everybody who's engaging on the poll is definitely saying that there is something that they've been avoiding doing. And so from a financial perspective, there are a couple of things that people avoid doing that certainly are valuable to do. And we're going to touch on those before we open the floor to questions. So step number one, these are the top things that you should be considering doing. The first thing is budgeting. If you want to get wealthy, you need to learn how to budget effectively. Wealthy people will all tell you that they budget. Wealth is not about how much money you earn, it's about how much money you spend. So a simple technique in terms of budgeting is the 50-30-20 rule. Spend 50% on things you need, 30% on things you want, and 20% on saving. If your budget's out of kilter, ask yourself, what are you spending the majority of your money on? But budgeting is key to wealth creation. So a budget really tells money where to go instead of wondering where did it go. The second thing that people avoid doing is checking out their bank statements. Now, cybercrime is rife in South Africa. We're the second fastest country in the world when it comes to cybercrime. So vitally, vitally important to draw 3 months bank statements and to take a look at some of your financial habits. So a great way to sort of avoid procrastination is to take a look at what do your bank statements tell you about you. Tip number 3, or step number 3, avoiding debt does not solve the problem. When we die, our debt doesn't even die with us. So accessing a copy of your credit report, vitally important. Your credit report is like the heartbeat of your financial health. So it's free and accessible for you to use. And because for every 100 Rand we earn, around 73 Rand is spent on debt, it is so vitally, vitally, vitally important to actually get a copy of our credit reports. Vitally important, something that we avoid doing. Habit number 4, or things that we avoid that are so important not to avoid, is insurance. So during this time of COVID, many people have said that they have saved money on insurance costs. So I would definitely say to you, ask yourself, when did you last do a mini insurance audit? Remember, insurance started with earliest man, hunter and gatherers. They hunted and gathered in good times so that they would be able to have, money stashed away or goods stashed away for those lean months. So remember, we buy insurance to protect those, but do we understand what we've bought? So vitally, vitally important to do a mini insurance audit. Another thing is something else we can't avoid, death and taxes. And the tax man is very good at becoming privy or knowing whether we are up to date with our taxes. And it's tax time at the moment. So don't avoid paying your taxes. Don't avoid not doing a tax return. So the tax season opened on the 1st of September. Vitally important to remember, not everyone has to actually submit a tax return, but everybody needs to be registered for tax. So when do you know whether you have to submit a tax return or not? Well, firstly, if you earn more than R500,000 Rand a year, or if you've had multiple employers, or if you have multiple sources of income, then yes, you do need to do a tax return. Also, if you've got any deductions or benefits, you need to then submit a tax return. Thinking to the future is something that we procrastinate. We're a nation. South Africans are a nation who live in the here and now. We don't think about our financial future, and I can say that with certainty because 95% of South Africans cannot afford to retire because we don't save. So I want you to think about how many paychecks do you have left? How many years of working do you still have left? And what will your retirement look like? Will it look like the time of your life or a race between death and bankruptcy? Creating a financial file is something that very often we avoid. We get overwhelmed by too much paperwork. So becoming financially organized, in fact, John DeMartini, one of the greatest financial coaches of our time, talks about the financial house that's well organized receives more money than one which is not. So becoming financially organized and getting your information into one safe, easily accessible place, vitally important. And then setting a goal, whether it be a goal for the last 8 weeks of the year, planning your holiday budget if you're planning on traveling this year, if you're lucky enough to do that, but planning that holiday budget, looking at your short-term, medium and long-term goals, vitally important. You know, despite the fact that currently we're sitting on about 2,000 new COVID cases a day, and we've gone through our first peak, the reality is the second peak is still to come. And many companies have advised their employees that there is not going to be increases in 2021. Times are very tough. So it's important to tighten our belts, to expect the unexpected, and to think about our goals. And one of those goals should be to really create what we call an in case of emergency fund for the financial roadblocks that we might potentially face in our future. So how to set these goals? Reflect on where you're at. Think about where you're at. Focus on what you really want, planning them out, getting support, and then looking back on your goals. So often we're great at setting the goals, but then we never revisit them. So many goals, you know, just sort of they goals, but we never achieve those goals, sadly. So instead of having 10 different financial goals or priorities, we ask you just to narrow them down to 2 or 3. Just 2 or 3 goals that you really want to achieve. Maybe your goal is to pay off your studies and to achieve your qualification. Important then to ask yourself, are your actions in line with your goals? So for example, let's say your goal is to finish your studying and to get your qualifications. Are your actions in line with those goals? Are you paying for your school fees through the Academy of York, for example? Or are you doing the work that you need to do? Are you preparing for the exams that you need to maybe write before the end of the year is up? So are your actual actions that you're doing every single day, are they in line with those goals? So to wrap up, before we ask questions, these are the 9 habits of highly successful people. And we're going to be asking you in the polling question to write down and respond to how many of these habits you've actually implemented in your life already. So the first habit of successful people is, you know, they get up early. So they get things done. They get their days started early. So do you get up early? Give yourself a point. Do you read? Reading is vitally important for success. We know that the more we learn about things, the more we're curious about things, the more things that we listen and learn through reading, the more we grow and achieve. So if you do, give yourself a point. Do you spend time, 15 to 30 minutes, just thinking, not doing, thinking? If you do, give yourself a point. Point number 4, do you make exercise a priority? You know, self-care is vitally important. So often we work so hard at work or so hard on our studies that we forget about our physical selves. So do you spend time exercising? If you do, give yourself a point. Do you spend time with people who inspire you? Successful people surround themselves with other people that inspire them to achieve great things. Do you pursue your own goals, not other people's goals, but your goals? If you do, give yourself a point. Do you get enough sleep? Now, this one I'm very passionate about, the importance of sleep. We cannot be highly productive if we don't get enough sleep. Very often we procrastinate things when we're feeling tired and we have low energy. And then, do you have a multiple income? Many companies are encouraging staff members to have multiple incomes. So people who are working in company A, but they have maybe an Uber business on the side, multiple incomes, vitally important. And then, do you avoid time wasters? Or are you somebody who is very kind and you don't like to hurt people? So you spend time with people who are not going to potentially, they're going to waste your time as opposed to help you use your time effectively. So let's see how many of these top habits you have. I encourage you to vote now. The moment we've got one person in this session who's got 7 to 8, nobody's got all 9. A couple of you have got 5 to 6 of the habits. We'd love to know from you, do we have anybody that's got all 9 of those habits? And if you've got 7 to 8, that's absolutely incredible. We would love to hear from you. You know, What are those habits? What are the things that you're doing? If you've only got 1 or 2, that's okay. Definitely, that is very, very, very often the case, and you can grow from that. So at this point, I'd love to open the floor to any questions that we may have from the group. And just a reminder that in order to achieve any goal in life, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's your studies, you need to do the work. Success is literally 10% talent, 90% hard work. So we need to do the work, and we need to do it now. So before we watch this short video, hopefully we have time for a session which talks about urgency. I'd love to open the floor to any questions that we may have. Thabo, any questions?
There's no questions that's posted yet, but I have a question just to break the ice, to open to the floor.
I'm ready.
Okay. I wrote it somewhere here. Where is it? Okay. Anyway, when you're preparing to get things done, is exercise good? Going to the gym good? In terms of your financial planning in a way? Does it affect you mentally or psychologically in a way?
So in terms of that, that's such an interesting question. Why is it important to exercise? And how does exercise relate to financial health and freedom? How does exercise relate to, the subject of becoming successful at work and avoiding procrastination? And I would think that the biggest answer to that is the fact that people who exercise or they look after their bodies, they recognize that they only have one body. And so they recognize the importance of investing in themselves. So they spend time on self-care. And if you look after yourself and you exercise, so physically you're healthy, chances are then you're going to also think about the other aspects of your life that are important. So if you're looking at your physical health, and that's great, you're going to physically live a long and healthy life, you would then ask yourself the question, will my finances be able to support me on my journey? Because so many people, it literally becomes a case of physically they might be healthy. In fact, science shows us that children that are born today are going to live until they're 120. But will our finances be able to support us through retirement and on that journey? And as I said to you, Thabo, 47% of people end up being dependent on their family. 95% of people cannot afford to retire. They need to work during retirement. In America, they've made retirement age 75. In South Africa, it's dependent on the company that you work at. So I do think that there is a link between people who physically take care of their bodies and people who then also physically take care of their finances. And I think that, some people say gym is a luxury item. Is it? I'm not quite sure. I mean, it isn't necessarily. I think taking care of yourself is not a luxury. Maybe going to the gym is a luxury, but taking care of yourself physically is not a luxury item. I think it's a necessity. I see that we've got a question from Cecilia. Cecilia, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Yeah, the last answer was very insightful and very helpful. Thank you for enlightening. Cecilia says, I would like to ask money management. I'm not sure if I don't think
Cecilia,
I understand
what question would you like to ask? No questions from Cecilia as yet. Sibongile, I think, has a question. Do you have to be in a certain threshold of income to claim a SARS return? So, Sibongile, just to clarify, you've got to submit a SARS return to SARS if you earn a certain income. So if you earn a certain income, then yes, you have to do a tax return with SARS, and that threshold is either 500,000 Rand or that you earn multiple incomes from different sources, or if you've had multiple employers during a certain tax year, then you do need to submit a tax return. That's a very valuable question. Thank you, Sibongile.
Yes, thank you, and that's a very good answer.
Any other questions?
We don't have any questions, but also have one question.
Sure.
In terms of when you are stressed, right? How do you get things done when you are actually stressed, when you're not feeling yourself?
Yeah, so I think that many of us are feeling stressed and anxious, and I think that we need to acknowledge that we are feeling stressed and anxious. And I think that this year has been a year of high stress and anxiety. So I'd like you to think about what is causing you stress and anxiety. What is the trigger that's causing you stress and anxiety? And then secondly, sort of rate yourself. Red being highly stressed and anxious. And in terms of that, then physically your body would be most probably being affected by that stress. And your physical symptoms, it could be memory loss, it could be tummy problems, it could be sleeplessness, it could be weight gain or weight loss. So is your stress affecting you then physically? So to become aware of your level of stress and anxiety firstly, and then sort of understand how stressed are you and what is the impact on you physically. And then thirdly, reach out and get help. And we've had a number of mental health awareness talks in our Wednesday webinars, and there are a number of free resources available to all South Africans. And one of those free resources is the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADAG. So it's a free toll-free number that you can call if you're feeling stressed and anxious, and that you can actually reach out and get help. And then what to do if you're feeling, if it's something small that you're feeling stressed and anxious about. So if your stress level is sort of in the orange or the green level, you're just feeling stressed about an assignment, I would say how to deal with that is ABCs. So A, become aware of the stress. B, sort of balance it out, boost it, and ask yourself what's the benefit of dealing with it. And then C would be commencement. Do something. So as Mel Robbins said, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, acknowledge the stress, and then simply get started. Action is a great antidote to stress. So for example, I'm feeling anxious about the talk. Just get started doing it for 5 minutes or doing a project for 5 minutes. And you say to yourself, I'm only going to do it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And then chances are, once you're in the rhythm of it, you end up doing it for an hour and you achieve a whole lot. So I think that that is vitally, vitally important. So I would definitely say sort of a way in which you deal with stress. You first need to know how much stress you have, and then you need to know how it's affecting you, and then just do one small thing. And very often doing that one small thing really helps us. And I would definitely say that exercise is a great antidote to stress as well. So action and exercise are great ways to get out of that trap. But I see we've got a couple of good questions related to studying that I think we should definitely answer. And the first one I think comes from Junior. Thabo, do you want to read Junior's question?
Yes. How can I do to? Oh, what? Okay, I think it's more like what can I do to give more time to concentrate on my study when I read.
Oh, you might get tired when you start reading your book. Oh, that's a great question. So yes. I think the question is all around concentration. So I'd like you to think about what is your most productive time of the day. So when are you most productive? So for me, I'm most productive in the early morning. I have shocking productivity at night. My son is exactly the opposite. He has great productivity at night, great concentration at night, but the morning is his worst time. So I think you need to ask yourself, what are your hours of peak productivity? And interestingly enough, sometimes is led to when you were born. So I asked my mom, when was I born? And she said in the early hours of the morning. And so naturally, that is my peak time for performance. So I try and use that time well. So for example, if you need to do a project or an assignment, or you need to spend time studying, understand that either you're a morning person or a lunchtime person or an evening person. Create for yourself a study timetable. Then you've got to have the discipline to stick to that study timetable. So when your alarm goes off in the morning, you've got to get out of bed. It doesn't matter how you're feeling, acknowledge the feeling, but still get out of bed and become disciplined in spending time. Now, if you find yourself lacking concentration while you're reading a certain thing, you want to get rid of distractions. So the biggest thing that causes me to get distracted when I'm studying is my cell phone or my emails. So I decide I'm going to try and remove all distractions. So close emails, close Facebook, close any other resources, get rid of your cell phone, and try and say to yourself, let's see how long I can truly concentrate for. Now, it's not true that you can concentrate for hours on end. The majority of people can only truly concentrate for 45 minutes at stretches. So 45 minutes, you're going to truly concentrate and then give yourself a break. 45 minutes, if 45 minutes is your magic time frame. So in a block hour of whatever your time is, see how long you can truly concentrate for, and then try and really use that and get into a routine, and try and not do it when you are tired or lethargic. Because for example, if you try and study at night and you've had a long day, that might just lead to you falling asleep and not spending time on your studies. So find that perfect time. And then I see we've got a question from Patrick.
Yes. Yes. Just before we answer that, Patrick, Cecilia came back and says, how can she manage her money? How can she manage it?
Okay, Cecilia, so my top tip for managing your money is the following 3 tips. 1, get a copy of your credit report. So go to mycredit.co.za or go to creditclear.co.za, get a copy of your credit report. Step 2, 3 months bank statements. Step 3, draw up a budget. That would be my top 3 steps for budget, for becoming a better money manager. 1, know how much debt you have. 2, know what your spending habits are. 3, budget. A budget is 3 parts. What do you earn? What do you spend? And what's the result? And once you've done those 3 steps, I would definitely then say you'll have a good idea of what change is necessary. You might realize certain things that you might need to change in your spending habits, for example. And once you acknowledge those issues, you're halfway there. We'll be able to assist you in terms of really changing that behavior. If you've got too much debt, I would definitely say get help, and contact the financial coaching team. I'll ask Thabo just to send you the details specifically for over-indebtedness, and they can help you get out the debt trap. Okay. Any other questions? I know we're running out of time, but is there time for one last question?
Yes, we're 1 minute over time. So yeah, let's get this one from Patrick. He says, how do I motivate myself to start doing my assignment?
That's a great question, Patrick. So there's 2 types of motivation, extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic are things that motivate us. Intrinsic are internal things that motivate us. So you need to ask yourself, what are the internal motivating factors? Do I have self-motivation? Now, Steve Jobs, who was the founder of Apple, said, when he was interviewed, he was asked how much money does he spend motivating his staff. It's a great interview, and he says, I don't spend $1. And when asked why, he said, I hire self-motivated people. And that was his secret to success. He hired people who were intrinsically motivated. So he didn't need external motivating factors. External motivating factors can be summarized as the carrot or the stick. So very often we're either motivated by something we can gain, a carrot, a reward, or a stick, a punishment. Those are very often the two motivating factors externally. So for me personally, I always ask myself, what's the reward, the carrot? What's the stick? What will happen if I don't do it? What's the punishment? And if you can find internal motivation, and I often find the answer to that is to ask yourself, why did I sign up for this course in the first place? What was my reason or my motivating factor that I started this? And if you go back to that question, why did you sign up for the human resources course or for this course? And most probably that reason of, I wanted to get a promotion. Remind yourself and let that motivate you to complete that assignment, to get that assignment in and to complete that qualification. If you want to have a qualification, imagine yourself graduating. Imagine yourself attending your graduation in the gown, in the hat, receiving that certificate. How would that make you feel? And that extrinsic motivation of that carrot and that reward going up and graduating should be enough to get you motivated. We only need to get you motivated to get started, 5 or 10 minutes. We know that 80% of people, once they start, they're going to continue. So that's the real secret when it comes to motivation. Thabo, I don't know whether you feel we've got time just to inspire everybody with the very end video of that sense of urgency. Would you be happy if we wrap up with that?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Or are there any other questions that you feel we need to answer from the group?
From what I see, just compliments and people saying what a wonderful and amazing presentation this was. And yeah, so I think a lot of people will just answer their questions before they even ask. Yeah, so yes.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for really understanding the issues we've had with technology. That wasn't our purpose today to have issues, but I do think we need to end off today's session really inspiring you with this idea of avoiding procrastination by having a sense of urgency. And I think this is a great 2-minute video, and hopefully it inspires you to take action. Thabo, if you can just check out the sound for me.
Okay, yes.
Best-selling author, and I'm here.
Wait a second.
Let's face it, everybody's got 2 cents and everybody's got 2 minutes. So here's my 2 cents in under 2 minutes. Hey, Grant Cardone here, New York Times best-selling author, and I'm here to talk to you today about this concept of patience and urgency. Look, here's the reality. 200 years ago, you could afford to be patient. This is where this came from. Patience is a virtue. Why? Because you had a horse, you had an ox, you had a small village, you had a limited number of people to help you with projects. You didn't have sophisticated machinery. 200 years ago, it was like, hey man, let's be patient. It's going to take a little while to build this house. But that was 200 years ago. Fast forward 200 years ago to right now. Look, patience is no longer a virtue. It disables you. It stops you from being competitive in the marketplace, much less dominating the marketplace. Today, it's about urgency. Remember, 200 years ago, there was a sundial. Today, what is there? A second hand. People are measuring seconds now, not hours or where the sun moves. You have to be urgent. Urgency is the new virtue of the 21st century, to push, to get things done, to accomplish a task. This is what you need to do for your family today. This patience is a virtue concept. While it was good 200 years ago, maybe even 100 years ago in the 1800s, and maybe even in the early 1900s, it will not suffice you in this marketplace today. Look, if patience is a virtue, man, what is urgency? It is a quality of the gods, of the most productive people on the planet. Snap their fingers, get something done, move on to the next task. That's where you want to be. You want to be in power. It's power. Don't buy this patience is a virtue thing. It's over. It's outdated. Urgency is the new virtue of business people, entrepreneurs, and those of you who want to take care of your families in the biggest in the biggest and most prosperous way you can. Urgency is the new virtue.
So hopefully you found that insightful and exciting. We would love to know from you whether you found today's session valuable. So please don't forget to vote before you leave. Go to menti.com. Tell us what you thought of today's session. And just a reminder that urgency is the new virtue. And in order to overcome procrastination, we've got to have a sense of urgency. Don't do it tomorrow. Get it done today. What do you need to get done today? What have you been avoiding? Let's eat the frog. Let's get it done. Let's achieve great things. So from me, a big thank you for joining us. Thank you, Thabo, for being our host today. We hope you found today useful and valuable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Val. That was an amazing session. Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, guys, our next session is going to be on the 11th of November. Virtual meetings. Look your personal best. Guest speaker is going to be Val Lemming again. And then also in November, on the 25th of November, we've got Reflect and Review on 2020. Guest speaker is going to be Carol Fenton. Thank you very much. Everybody who needs this copy of this session, please email thabo@aoi.co.za. Thank you for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It's just another ordinary workday. You're sitting at your desk, staring at your computer. Colleagues come and go, but you're still here in the same place, doing the same thing. It was in your plan to study one day, but life got in the way, and weeks turned into months, which eventually turned into years. But what if today was the day this all changed and you took the first step to changing your future by embarking on an online learning course with the Academy of York?
Hi, I'm Richard Leeming, Dean of Academy of York. Academy of York is an accredited college with over 10 years experience and over 10,000 students who have studied through us. Most of our courses are either accredited or registered by professional bodies or their relevant CETAs, while we as a college are registered with the Department of Education. Our academic and student support team are committed to ensuring that you successfully complete your studies. So whether it's in the growing field of human resource management, project management, or an empowering life coaching course, let Academy of York take you to the next level in your career and into a brand new future. All over the world, education institutions are moving towards online education, recognizing the need for making education accessible and affordable to all. Academy of York is proud to be part of that online revolution. And as your partner in education, we can help you take the first steps to achieving a better future for you and your family. So dare to dream and take the first step out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary with Academy of York, the college for people with a purpose.